like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I ask you how, and then how
Good morning, everyone.
Lick your fingers, wipe your eyes, and you smear the shrieking stains.
Let's see, sorry.
They're black. Jet black and jealous.
I'm sorry, I'm doing stuff. Paul's obviously.
Jet black and jealous. It's black. Jet black and jealous.
We're on?
We're on. Good morning, Mr. Sanchez.
I was playing, I didn't know.
Well, I figured we'd treat the people to a little bit of you just being you,
Well, I like Jet Black and Jealous on piano.
I know, it's nice, right? It's got a nice feel.
I don't know why, it's just different somehow. It's like it's not, I don't know, the acoustic guitar version that I recorded, it was just me trying to be Dylan when I was in my 20s. But over the years, it sort of became it was a very interesting song to try and play live because it wasn't a country song in my mind. But when, of course, a bass player hears you strumming like that or doing Travis picking, which is double bass, they're thinking country all the way. So most drummers I played with and most bass players I've played that song with, and I've played with a lot over the years, have done that. And I've just accepted, okay, it's going to be a country song tonight. The one bass player who didn't hear it that way, I love her so much, Mary LaSang. She heard it as a rock song, and she did all these really cool long note, whole note bass things that were slide from dissonance right into the groove and into the key. And it challenged whoever was drummer. They suddenly weren't hearing just my strumming. They were hearing this really interesting bass line from Mary LaSang, and they were playing with that. And it was the only time it really worked as a rock song. And because of my own inability to express musicality to other people, I like them to play whatever they're feeling, then it's all based on how I'm playing it. And so as I've been learning piano during the pandemic, I started learning some of my own songs, and I thought, well, Jet Black and Jealous is pretty cool. That would be a wholly different way to play it. Never done it like that.
I don't know if I've ever heard that version. That sounds really cool, actually. I don't know if I've ever heard her play it. It wasn't one of the ones that would wind up on the sets that I'd wind up at, so.
No, we did it at the Langyap stage. So you were mixing the Gentili stage.
Gotcha.
That was a few years ago, and I haven't used Mary in a bit because, of course, she plays with Susan in both her solo projects and with the Cowsills, and she works full time as a social worker.
Right.
So she squeezes those gigs in when she can, and I know she loves me. I know she'll say yes. I know she'll overbook herself, and she'll be, at some point, frantic because she's either got something to do at work or she's got to rehearse with Susan or the Cowsills are in town. And I don't want to put her in that position because I love her. And I know she'd only say yes because she loves me.
Right. And then she's got to go through your songs and learn them again and all that good stuff. So I know.
Well, then she's learning it's three bands, man. She's learning
right.
Susan's set and the Cowsills set. And if they're doing a cover in vinyl, she might be learning that set too. That's a lot when you got.
And then brushing up on your things and stuff. And see, not everybody has the memory that you do. I always have to brush up if I'm playing with somebody.
Well, she knows that I don't care if it's bad notes. Mary and I
but
play
she
rock
does.
and roll. No, she does. Look, Mary and I have discussed this. If there's not at least one person playing a bad note in a song, that song's not a rock and roll song. Somebody better fuck up.
But let's get this straight. One bad note, not a ton of bad notes.
Depends on the song. Depends on the song, man. Come on.
Life is really interesting. I have to say, I saw something yesterday, and I don't want to freak anybody out, but I actually saw WWL actually acknowledge what I've been kind of fearing in my heart, that, Jazz Fest might get canceled as we get closer because of this damn variant.
I'm sorry that you brought it up because it's a sad subject for me and for anyone that's a lover of Jazz Fest, but I just told my wife, Allison, yesterday, I feel like I'm watching reports of a hurricane approaching, and the people around me are preparing for a hurricane party. And I want to say, run for your lives. That's just a song, run for your lives.
Yes.
And so increasingly, like, I watch it. My wife works at a hospital, so I'm watching the news, and yeah, it's just not. It was the South at first. Now the variants in all 50 states. And I saw this really just brilliant man in Arkansas today. Like, when you think of dumb as a bag of hammers, his picture's probably in the dictionary. He's in the hospital with COVID. He's got COVID, can barely breathe. And the reporter says, "So did you get vaccinated?" He goes, "No, I did not." And he goes, "Well, would you recommend it to people now that you've caught the disease?" He goes, "No, I would not, and I won't get vaccinated." What would be the reason behind that? Is just because it's science? I just don't believe in it. I just don't believe in it. I don't think I need it. The man is going to die from COVID in the hospital while saying, "I don't need the vaccine."
Right.
I mean, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, as Dean said.
Me and Simon were talking. Well, I've been seeing some of the ones out of Florida where they keep going to people and they're like going, "I really regret not taking the vaccine,"
Now, those people I get, okay?
Right.
So you were believing the hype. Maybe you watch Fox News, whatever your situation is, you believed it, and then you got it, and you went, "Hey, man, I'm telling my friends now, get the vaccine because this shit's serious." That makes sense to me. That's forgivable. That's okay. You were on your side, and your side was anti-science for God knows what reason, and suddenly you're anti-science. But she's at least going, yeah, I'd do it now.
Right.
This guy's on a respirator. He's got like a tube down his throat, and he's going, "No, I won't get no vaccine."
Right, I know.
Won't do it.
I know. Another one that kind of I saw that was blowing me. I'm sorry.
So I think he's, probably a genius.
I got to get this off my
He knows
chest.
more than everybody.
There's a group of let's just say supported a different presidential candidate than me. A group of these people are trying to sue to get rid of the vaccine, even though no one's forcing them to get the vaccine. They actually brought a lawsuit to try to get rid of, so that nobody gets the vaccine. And I just don't understand these people.
That entire side of the line defies logic, because if you don't believe in science and you don't believe in evidence and proof and as truth, then you are part of 1984, and that's the world you're living in, and the world you're asking me to live in. I say no, thank you.
I say no, thank
I'm
you.
going to stay out here with the free air and the things and the stuff. But I've long since stopped trying to reason with him. I had an old friend of 40 years. One day we're talking, and he mentions he's QAnon. I'm like, "Come on, dude, you're fucking with me, right? You're trying to get me to laugh." And he goes, "No, man, it's serious. You can't stop what's coming." And I'm like, "Dude, I've known you 40 years. Please tell me you're fucking with me, because this will be the last time that we sit down together, And he's like, "No, you should go and look into it." I'm like, "I know about it." When they raided, like, this isn't about Democrat or Republicans. So
Right.
I don't feel badly about talking. This is about brainwashing or some of the stupidest individuals on two legs. I don't know which. A guy raids a pizza place, which I actually played next door to that place a month
Did you
later.
really? Wow.
Yeah, it was still the talk of the laugh of the town. He's armed to the teeth because he believes behind this door there's a pedophilia ring, and he's going to save children that Hillary Clinton has actually captured. And he kicks in the door, and it's a storage room. And he peacefully surrenders to the cops, saying, "I got bad intel."
He certainly did.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
He got bad intel. The Republican National Convention, they've decided they want to dump Mike Pence, the QAnoners and the Trumpsters, because he's a traitor to the cause. They announced that JFK Jr., who died 20 years ago, is going to show up and prove he's still alive and accept the vice presidential nomination to get rid of the traitor Pence. And I was intrigued, man. I'm like, okay. I mean, I always thought the Kennedys were pretty cool, but if you raise us from the dead, there's a whole new level of cool here, man. We could be talking this second coming at this point,
Right.
the third coming, whatever coming it is. So I'm waiting. Republican convention comes, and there's no blast from the clouds. There's no revelation that JFK Jr. did not die in a plane crash and that he's in fact still alive and turned Republican. Nobody goes like, "Oh, well, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me."
Well,
and then they're incited into an insurrection wherein the president's going, "Go and take the Capitol." And when they ask him, he's like, "I'd tell him to do it."
right.
I think I've said it on the show, but I wanted to show up at the Republican National Convention in a nice suit and say, thank you so much. I'm JFK Jr., and I'm here to accept the nomination. Let's do this. Let's take back America. And if we happen to win, then it's a simple plan. You feed that fat fuck McDonald's 3 meals a day. He loves McDonald's. Here, baby, have it for breakfast. Have it for lunch. There's 3 Big Macs waiting for you for dinner. Right. I've seen the movie. What's it called?
Supersize.
McDonald's every day.
Supersize.
Yeah. Inside of a year, he is one of those balloons that are hanging outside the White House. They got the tether to him, and he's so fat he's just floating up there, full of grease and prefabricated meat.
Right.
I would have been a good JFK Jr. And then I just let the string go, and he floats away, and I go, I'm president. I'm not really JFK Jr., but I got some cool ideas.
Right. Let's see if we can't fix some of this stuff, people. When you were talking about the idea, I mean, all the predictions that start, because, you saw the thing on HBO where it's sort of, the guy who apparently, according to the thing on HBO, there was a change in the QAnon thing, and the guy who actually took over made all of these predictions, and not one of them came true. And like you said,
it's crazy, and people are still going, well, there it is. There's another great prediction that won't come true.
That won't come true.
I know.
It's crazy.
But then let's get back to the real world. A little tiny penis sent a great big giant penis into space yesterday for 10 minutes. And these are the kind of adventures you can have when you make $800 billion and don't pay taxes on any of it.
Right.
And I was wondering, in the 10 minutes he spent giggling like a child and floating in no gravity, how many people on Earth died in that 10 minutes? From poverty, from lack of food, from lack of protection from the elements. In that just 10 minutes, I wonder how many people died. But that's a downer. We don't do downer. He brought a woman into space who NASA rejected in the 60s, and for that I applaud him. But it's a whole lot of money. But one of the things he says is, we're going to start doing the polluting industries off the planet because the planet's so fragile, we got to save it. And I'm like, have we become that grandiose that now we're going to pollute the cosmos? We're just going to use the cosmos as our industrial waste toilet. It's fantastic. George Carlin used to have a routine where he says, man thinks he's so vain, he's going to save the planet. He's worried about plastic. He goes, for all we know, the planet's only letting us survive because it didn't know how to make plastic. Now that it's got it, it's going to shake its off back like bad fleas.
Right. My story, the Mars story, basically began. The basic idea.
You should refer to it as your epic.
Yes, my epic. Well, the story. You ever hear of the Kessler syndrome? So Kessler syndrome it's basically, so if you look, you can find these things online. I've got to share one of these one time. They're tracking. This is the stuff that they can track, right? They can only track stuff that's at least 6 inches or whatever like that. The amount of stuff flying around the Earth right now is unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So they've got videos that show you this stuff, right? So it's, in the movies where you got the whole thing with the Superman up there in the sun and there's nothing. No. There's shit flying everywhere, right? It's just like getting out. The reason that they have to constantly slow these damn things off is because something is off tracking wise. Like, hold on, we can't do it because this piece of trash is coming in the way and all this stuff like that. Give me a second, we're gonna get this worked out. They always tell you it's like, oh well, we're just no. Now they're keeping an eye on the trajectory and making sure that they can get out. So, long story short, I mean, it's like you said, I mean, where are they going to put this stuff, Not to mention the amount of energy it would take to get this stuff into space. None of it makes any sense.
Mikey, space is big. You throw it anywhere.
Right, just throw
it anywhere.
We got asteroids up there.
Send it out the manifold, You got some toxic chemicals, just spew it off the hose, piss on the universe, It's going to be awesome. We'll be safe down here on Earth.
Oh, now they're trying to figure out these ways. They actually have to, right? Because if they don't do it soon, all it takes is like that movie Gravity. I mean, it takes, once they start colliding into one another, that's it. All the satellites, because then it turns into just debris and smaller debris. They showed these pictures of the space shuttle, and they have these, they've got these 4-inch thick, plexiglass windows for the front, right? And specks of paint put freaking not holes, but dented this thing. Specks of paint because they're moving so fast, 10 times the speed of a bullet. And they show you these pictures and stuff, just huge cracks from a speck of paint. They're saying, oh yeah, that was it was about a centimeter across, the thing that hit there.
Yeah, it's a lot of money spent on not caring about what we're doing to the planet. I'm looking at the fuel that they're using as they burst through the ozone layer, and I'm thinking, gee, I wonder how much money that fuel costs and that hole in the ozone we just made with your rocket. I wonder if we could have spent that money on something else, like keeping buildings from falling and killing people, or having highways that didn't crumble in the heat, or, you know, stopping the...
Wait, hasn't that been happening too? Like, aren't in the heat waves are so bad that roads are actually falling apart and melting?
I mean, yeah, that much is true. But when you ended the wealth tax under Reagan, that was where our infrastructure funding came from. So it's been about 50 years, however long he's been gone, 40 years, since we had money coming in. So now you have bridges collapsing in Minneapolis a few years ago, and a bridge collapsing last week, and a building collapsing. The infrastructure of the country the railroads are a mess, because nobody's paying for it. Jeff Bezos made $800 billion and didn't pay taxes. And so let's all fight with each other. All of us who don't make a lot of money, let's point the finger and call each other names, and, you know.
Didn't Carlin have a whole bit about that too? Just about the fact that, you know, they just, you know, point us off at each other just to keep us busy. And, you know.
You know, there was a wonderful, we don't ever get serious on this show, but Bezos' thing is, it could be comedy gold, but if it weren't so, just completely unself-aware. But one of the first, in the book, The History of the United States of America by Howard Zinn, and if you haven't read it, you should, Mikey, you'd love it. He was a history professor at Boston University. And one of the first slave uprisings in the country happened in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They weren't a state yet. And the slaves at that time were African Americans, Native Americans, Irish, German, Italian, indentured servants, but they were all living together as slaves. And there was no middle class. There was the slaves living here, and there was the rich people in mansions over there. And after a generation, they did what human beings do when they live in close quarters. They started fucking and having kids, and then they weren't anything but family at that point.
Right.
And one of them says, hey, let's go burn down the mansions of the rich people because this sucks. They're treating us like this. And they all go, yeah, let's do it. So they did it. And the Virginia Commonwealth passed the very first law in the United States of America that no man of color could have a job of skill. So overnight, the Italians and the Irish became blacksmiths and haberdashers and tailors, whatever the fuck. And they were making a little more money, but most importantly, they had their freedom. And the slaves were like looking at them going, hey, you're my brother. You know, we were friends just yesterday. And I'll kill you if you don't help me out of here. And the middle class guy's like, hey, man, I remember you, but I'm in a different place now, and I can't go back there. And if you try and come here, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And so overnight, we had a middle class, and the fight for the last 400 years is not about black, white, red, yellow. It's about green, baby.
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. It's always
and,
been.
You know, I say this as an outsider because I don't have any green.
Right.
Or as a churchman.
Yeah, me too. You too. You know, it's
no
funny.
Skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you and I probably have had very similar. Where every once in a while, you get something happens, you get a nice little hit, and you're like, oh, look at that, I got a nice little, you know, and then you don't get another one for months, but you know, for a moment,
I'm going to be
you feel,
honest with you. I got a healthy paycheck from Your Honor, and my actor friends and my AD friends are telling me, oh yeah, but wait till you see the residual check. So I was like Ralph Cramden, man. I'm buying people dinners. I'm living large. I'm big shot. When I have it, I go with it. Next thing I know, it's July, and they say, yeah, you get it in July. I'm like, well, it's the end of July, and bank account got a little low in my foolishness.
Right. Where's my residual?
You're this residual thing going to happen.
Yeah, I understand. Let me just see the chat. I didn't have it up here. Let's see, because I saw a lot of people actually... let's see. Well, there's a lot of talk about Mary. Are we? No, it's only 9:20. Yeah, so
but
we had.
We want to talk about him before he appears.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
Our guest today is a guy who is part of the Threadhead organization, which is a group of people who, since Katrina and the flood, have done more to preserve the music and the art culture in New Orleans than any single organization, I believe. They've raised over $2 million between their not-for-profit record company and their Threadhead Foundation and their Fest for Kids. Their giving is seemingly never ending. He is a part of their group. He also is a wonderful artist. He does blown glass art, has his gallery in Algiers Point, Roastery Gallery, and he sells at Jazz Fest as well as around the country and around the world. His stuff is absolutely gorgeous. I have a couple of pieces myself. So what we're going to do today is while Mark puts up with Mikey and I's shenanigans, we're also going to have a B-roll of him working and making some art. And as we see stuff that interests you, if you pop up with a question for him, that'd be great. He's an old friend, so I'm going to be pretty relaxed with him. And I'm pretty sure he's going to have fun, and I know that Mikey and I are going to learn something. I've been in his studio. I've been in his studio when he's blowing glass, and it's incredible what those people can do.
What does it smell like though? Like when you're doing that? And by the way, I'm gonna stall a little bit because he's actually not on camera right now. So,
it's funny you should ask that because I've been in a few blown glass art places around the country. I played a few for some reason. I don't think that. In my
glass
mind, he'll have
doesn't
to tell
smell.
you.
Yeah.
In my mind, glass doesn't smell. I
just thought maybe the things that were causing the flames might have a smell to them or something. I don't know. It just seemed like
it's
it would.
gas usually.
Yeah.
I assume they're using gas, which doesn't. Once it's burned, it doesn't have a smell, and big old flame is burning it. I don't know. That's a good question to ask him. But I went to one in Indiana. I went to one in Massachusetts, and I went to his a couple times and watched people work, and it's intense. It's hot. You wonder what the hell are you doing? But it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, he actually just came and sat down now, so
okay.
I guess we can
bring him on.
I'm gonna bring him on right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, there he is, Mark Rosenbaum, and there he is at work at the Roastery Gallery.
How you doing this morning, Mark?
Doing great. How about y'all?
Oh no.
Good. So right away, first question. I mentioned that I had gone to watch you work before. Oh, I can't hear you now.
Why not? Let's see.
What happened to you?
It sounds like it was just breaking up a little bit.
Can you talk?
I hear him.
Okay. So I mentioned that I had gone to watch. Yeah, we hear you now. I mentioned that I had gone to watch you work before, and the first thing Mikey asked me was, "What was the smell like?" And I don't remember glass having a particular smell. Am I?
No, not really. You're melting glass at 2,050 degrees, so anything that would smell is pretty much gone. There are certain smells that glass blowers recognize. So you have wooden tools that you use. So it kind of smells like a campfire down there sometimes, and things like that. But there's really no distinct glass blower smell, except for us maybe sometimes.
Your voice was working better when you had your headphones in.
Okay, let me do that. 1 second.
Now it's working great.
Right, it's funny. It's like...
You got it now?
Oh, yeah. Now you sound great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Much better.
Sorry.
So,
like I was saying, the glass blowing doesn't really have a smell because it's so hot down there. But the wood tools and things like we use kind of smells like campfire down there sometimes, which is
that's
kind of cool.
Yeah. Gives you a nice vibe then while you're doing it.
Can you see the video that we're playing?
Yes.
What are you doing here?
I'm rehydrating, so I'm going to be doing it in a second. I'm blowing a piece. So the pieces are made different layers of glass, and decoration is put using colored glass in between the layers. And so this is, I think, after my first layer. Each layer is called a gather. There's a gathering the glass on the end of the pipe. So this is the first gather already done, and I'm waiting for that to cool off a little bit to support the next layer it's going to go on, and most likely I'll put color on the next layer.
And so the color, do you use is it like something you add to it, or is it colored glass? Like
it's colored glass, and the glass is colored the same way that you would color like glazes for ceramics. It's earth metals that are put in solution with the glass, and so I use it as they're little chips or powders of colored glass, and they're all formulated to be the same. Glass expands and contracts when it heats and cools. So, and it all glass is at different rates. So, like Coke bottles expand and contract at a different rate than the glass I'm using. So, the glass color that we use is formulated to expand and contract at the same time as my base glass, so it doesn't crack.
Interesting. Wow. It looks very dangerous.
Yeah.
Like I would definitely hurt myself.
Same thing.
You have to be on your toes all the time. You know, you're watching and being very careful while you're working. But we do before all the pandemic thing, we did what's called blow your own experiences, and people can come in and we walk them through making their own vase or bowl or ornament or things like that, and you get the whole experience of being down in the hot shop sweating with us.
Oh, that is cool, right
That's
there.
pretty interesting what you just did there.
Yeah,
I was
so
just
I'm
rolling
just putting on
other-
that's blue glass chips that
Right.
I'm rolling on to make the lip of the piece the blue, and then I'm going to do it a couple times to get a nice opaque layer on there, and then I'll put another color on the bottom of that gather to be the different color on the bottom of the bowl.
You know, what's funny is I was thinking about your experience, you know, with letting people come in and do the glass, and the thought I had was, how much does the insurance for that cost? I can, right? I'm sorry. Oh my God! It's like, oh, is what you do dangerous, sir? Nah, it's not dangerous at all.
We have everybody sign a waiver when before they go down to the studio.
Gotcha.
So I don't know how legally binding that is, but that's the best we can do right now.
I understand. Well, you know, speaking of the festivals, one of the issues that they're going to have is, you know, last year they got out of everything because they had COVID coverage, but there's no more COVID coverage. So the festivals now are kind of doing it at their own risk, as far as like Jazz Fest and stuff.
It's going to be interesting, and you know, like you all were talking about earlier. Yeah, you're like watching this slow motion train wreck, and you're trying to avoid it and hope it doesn't happen. But, you know, there's the mayor on TV saying, you know, you might just happen, you know. So everybody has their fingers crossed, and it's just this worry that's deeply embedded in the back of your brain that you're hoping doesn't happen.
Right. I mean,
Right.
you know, for me, I'm finally starting to look at getting back to work. There's gigs coming back on the schedule, and I just feel like going and slapping all these people and saying, eat your broccoli. For the love of God, just eat your broccoli. You know?
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, I've been arguing with my mom. I'll be honest. We finally got her on board, but it took forever to get my mom. And I saw, you know, what's funny is I sent them this. Now, they said they already had plans, but on Monday, apparently, Sean Hannity was like telling everybody, as I've been saying from the beginning, the pandemic is real and we need to trust science. And it's kind of, this is what he says, right? So I sent them the articles from Business Insider. I sent all the family the articles going, here's your man telling you should probably go get, you know, vaccinated. Maybe you should, if you won't listen to me, maybe you'll listen to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
I mean, you know, and you see senators and all are lining up now and getting the vaccine and saying, you know, this would help now. It's like, okay, what about, you know, 10 months ago or 15 months ago, whatever it was, you know?
It actually would have helped more than.
Anyway.
So I
You know
hate
what?
to drag it there. So
Let's leave the hot air
Yes,
of
yes,
politics
sorry.
and go back to the hot air of glass blowing.
yes, sorry.
Exactly.
You're working on a third level now. Are you pouring water on it right there?
I think I'm still on my second level. I'm
What's your right hand
just-
doing?
my right hand, I'm feathering. I think I'm dragging the color on the piece.
Wow.
Just different kind of decoration. Glass blowing has been around for 2,000 years, and I use the same kind of methodologies that they've used 2,000 years ago. So a glass blower from 2,000 years ago, there'll be different things, of course, technology that they wouldn't recognize, but they would definitely recognize what I'm doing and probably be able to come in and work comfortably.
Wow. Wow.
And so now you got some red
So,
going. Is that just from the heat, or you actually started adding some red?
yeah, it's pretty. I think it's from the heat. My screen is really small. I'm looking at it on the phone, so I'm trying to judge by what's going on the table. So yeah, mostly the color changes while I'm working. So it goes from red, orange down to it'll change back to the color of the chips that we started with. And actually, there's certain colors like reds, yellows, and oranges that stay dark while I'm working at that heat, and I won't see the colors until the next morning when they cool off in the oven. So
we have
it's
Shmoo's asking where did you learn how to do this from? Asking if you do mostly functional stuff, or is it mostly art?
I got my BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, from Tyler School of Art in Philadelphia, part of Temple University, and I was the first person to receive to earn MFA in glassblowing from Tulane. So, and then I received a small grant from Louisiana Division of the Arts to open the first privately owned glassblowing studio in the state. That was in 1985, and I do mostly functional work, not really a lot of sculptural stuff. And learning is, you could learn in college, but they don't teach you how to survive, kind of. So it's you learn at the School of Hard Knocks. It's the same thing. Musicians are the same way. You can learn basic chords and things like that, but not until you go out there and start busting your chops. To get your chops is when you're successful.
I can tell you when it comes to like audio engineers and stuff, there's a bunch of these schools that charge these kids a lot of money, and they walk into the real world, and although they know some of the basics, they really don't have any skills that they can work, that can really put them to work.
Right.
It's
right. It's like, you graduate and you're an artist, and then you're just thrown out there, and it's like, okay, go make a living. It's like, it's not like that.
Right.
So I'm lucky. I feel very lucky and blessed that I've been able to have this career for so long. I've blown glass for 43 years or so, and I'm able to build a nice business and support a family and send my kids through private schools and college. And, I'm a lucky one. I really am.
Freddie's asking is there any way maybe you could show some of your incredible lamps? He says he was blown away when he visited the studio last year. So I don't know if there's anything you can grab in your hands or anything, but not really.
I could. Let's see what we got here. I got some lighting back there.
I do a Jim McCormick. Yeah, just walk around with the phone, right?
Right.
I see that lamp back there. Yeah.
There's some lamps right there.
Yeah.
So I got some stuff in the studio.
Well, that's kind of neat.
So we
Instead
have a nice
of a shade,
gallery.
right? You've got it actually puts out light into the room that sort of has a different hue to it. It's cool.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, we do well with lighting, and we have a fairly broad line that we do. I have two other glass blowers that work with me, and we're working all the time, which is great. We worked all the way through pandemic, really.
That's amazing.
When we had to close, I think it was March 15th, if I'm not remembering correctly. I had to send everybody home for a month or 2 months, I guess it was. We kept everybody employed because there was a thing to do as a business. And as soon as we were able to, we started back up here and kind of pivoted a little bit and just stayed busy the whole time.
And you guys, I guess, go ahead, Paul.
No, you have a booth at Jazz Fest almost every year, right?
In the past 40 years, I've been accepted to Jazz Fest 38 times.
Oh.
Nice. When you are working a booth, do you still get to go and do music, or that's your day, you have to stay at the booth?
Well, my lovely wife Brenda comes with me, and it used to be actually my mom would come down from Connecticut and help us in the booth. And my mom is now almost 94, and she's into her 91. She was still coming down and helping with the booth. So I'm able to walk around. I pick a few acts that I want to see, and negotiate with my wife, and get out there and see. And then on the opposite weekend, we only get one weekend. Crafts change each weekend. So the opposite weekend that I'm working, first I'll go work a day at Miss Lena's beer booth to help her
Nice.
out. That's a Zulu Diamond Cutters. And then I'll walk around and just take it all in, just cruise the tents and cruise the stages, and watching my friends perform and watching people react to my friends and that kind of thing. It's really cool. And actually, Paul, that you said something the other day about riding around on the cart and taking in Jazz Fest before everything opens up. And that is such a cool thing, because it's like these are the people who have been doing Jazz Fest for a while. It's like seeing old friends again, and saying hello, and it's a real nice vibe before the gates open. It really is.
It really is.
And the community place always opens up before the gates open, so we're able to go get our coffee before the gates even, which is always a wonderful thing. Because for a while they wouldn't do it but they've learned in the interim years that we need to have coffee ready by 9 a.m. and we could sell a buttload just to the guys that are working here.
Man.
Right. Right.
What's your favorite performance of Jazz Fest that something that maybe not favorite, but something that you remember, very memorable performance of something?
The top of the list would be Bruce right after Katrina. I mean,
It was an amazing show.
Up and above anything that I could, it's epic is the only word you could do. I mean, I cried. I mean, I don't cry often at music at venues, but shit, I cry.
I did too, man. I remember he opened up with "Mary, Don't You Weep No More," and it seemed like he was giving us permission to finally weep. And
and he ended with Saints, when the Saints go marching.
Yeah, and I remember being transfixed and being moved. In his book, he says he felt like he had to work really hard to get the crowd, but I think that was more in his mind. I think he had.
I think the crowd was waiting. The crowd was, and like you said, kind of waiting for permission to cry, to be joyous, to do whatever emotion came, and he gave us permission. Yeah.
So many of us were numb still in the shock of post Katrina, and it was being given permission to feel again. We hugged, we danced, we cried. It was fantastic. It
was. I've been to a lot of Springsteen performances, and that it was different. It's so different, but incredible.
Yeah.
That year, I was actually in the recording truck, and we were broadcasting, and I was on Gentilly stage that year. Was I on Gentilly that year? I feel like I was on Gentilly that year, because one thing I do remember is there was like 5 people at our stage at Gentilly, and like everybody was at Bruce. I mean, that whole side of it must have been a mess getting out of there, because like everybody was there. It seemed,
Yeah, I was lucky enough to, and this is how Jazz Fest is. You make friends with people who, the ushers and people like that, and I had a friend who I got like right up front. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was just like, if you weren't there, you don't really know, And I'm sure now that there, 100,000 people say they were at that stage, it was that kind of epic thing. Oh, I was there. Yeah.
Right, of course. Oh yeah, I was there.
Hey, were you there? The other one that I remember is Elton John and Ed Sheeran played at the same time on a Saturday. And that was another one I was doing the truck. I was doing Ed Sheeran at my truck. And Ed Sheeran had as many people as Elton did. It's just mom and dad went to go see Elton, and all the kids went to go see Ed Sheeran. And that was the first time we had people waiting to get rides at 10:30 at night for the shuttles to get out of there. It turned out there was an overhead picture of Jazz Fest from that. I've never seen it so packed. Like, that was the biggest. I think it actually is the biggest day Jazz Fest ever had. But oh my God, what an unbelievable day that particular day was. It was
Yeah. I was there for that. I was with mom and dad, I guess, or I was mom and dad.
Right, right. Going to see Elton,
Yeah,
right?
Elton. Well, Elton's somebody on the bucket list,
Yeah.
and actually, I have tickets to go see him in January on his. I guess this is his retirement tour or whatever that was postponed because of COVID. So we'll go see him at the arena here, and that'll be cool too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
You know, the first time I saw Elton was like in '83, I think. A friend had a ticket and somebody bailed, and my friend was a big fan. And they were like, "Come on, man, why don't you just go?" And I thought, "All right, I'll go," but I don't really like Elton John. And then I went. I knew every fucking song. I was up in the aisles singing and dancing and just loved it.
And he's a true performer, you know.
Always has
Yeah.
been. Yeah, always has been.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
when his voice changed. I mean, that's a guy who sort of, he had one career and then sort of relaunched as a different guy, Speaking of, the issues you've had, Paul. I mean, Elton came out and suddenly he can't sing he's singing different songs. I don't even know if you can catch him singing much of the early stuff because he just can't anymore. It's
Right,
not
it's
in
too
his
high.
range. Yeah. It's not in his range
Yeah.
anymore.
So actually, we'll point this way. What I'm doing just to get back, what I'm doing is I'm elongating the piece. I'm using centrifugal force to pull the piece down to make it longer, to make it taller. So there's a lot of glass blowing is very, very physical. I tell people I've been doing it's like an extreme sport or extreme art for 43 years, and my body's starting to feel it, and you don't realize it's a lot of weight to carry around and a lot of movement and flow that you don't usually do, and your body adapts to it, and sometimes breaks down, sometimes it's good.
So is the glass
That
like
was
heavy
impressive.
on one side? I mean, is it just the
Yes.
yeah, okay. Wow.
It's heavy. It's heavy because you can't grab the pipe at the fulcrum, so the balance point is towards the glass, and it's real hot up there. So you have to grab further back. So every inch you go back on the pipe, the more the piece seems to weigh. So you can have like a 5 or 10 pound piece on the end, and it seems like it's 30 or 40 pounds on the end.
I can't grab a hot pan. Like, my wife always makes fun of me. I'm the guy who's always got oven mitts on, so, I can imagine you could probably grab boiling water off the pan. It's nothing. I do way worse than this every day.
Yeah, it's funny when you're at a restaurant, a waiter puts a plate down and says, "Be careful, that's hot." It's like, okay, I got this.
Right.
Oh my God.
I'm looking here to see what Shmoo's got going on there. Oh, right. They can't sing the songs anymore. Yeah, the Beach Boys are going to be there this year, I heard, right? Well, are they on the list? Yeah.
It's a Saturday, second Saturday. I think Cowsills are playing the same day.
Yes, it's me, the Cow Sills, and then the Beach Boys.
Oh, so they'll be on my stage. Look at that.
That's the lineup.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people camped out at Gentilly that day. It'll be a fun day.
Well, yeah, and they're only doing 3 acts a day now because of the sun setting earlier.
Oh, right. Interesting.
6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock is over.
Yeah, they have to cut off earlier, and so it's going to be a different jazz fest if it in fact happens.
Yeah, if it in
Right.
fact happens. So let's pray for the
And we're not
best.
even going to talk about weather. We won't even talk about weather, but that's okay.
Yeah, right.
We're not
Well,
talking
I
about
mean, weather's a factor every year. It could be a
Not-
chillier
not-
jazz fest. That won't
Not
stop
the kind of
anybody.
weather that he's talking about, October.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Oh, it's over by the end of September. It's over by the end of September.
Yeah.
We got married, me and my wife,
we-
on September 24th without thinking about the fact that, I bet you half of our anniversaries were spent running from some sort of hurricane. It wasn't until we moved to Nashville that it was like, oh, look at this. We actually can have an anniversary up here. Wow, that's amazing because, and it turns out the year we got married, it was beautiful, but every year after, freaking hurricane coming.
My wife and I have a September 23rd anniversary, and our girl was born on September 25th the year after. So yeah, we've spent quite a few birthdays and anniversaries elsewhere.
Yes, we're September 24th, so that's so funny. The same weekend, and yeah, I'm sure. I do remember one time we were in the Bahamas though, and we used it to our advantage because it was like, oh, there's something coming. Sorry, kids, we're going to be a little late. We have to stay in the Bahamas for an extra week. Go hang out with Grandma. Stay with Grandma. Be safe. We love you. See you in a week. It was the one time it played in our favor.
So now over here, what I'm doing is I'm transferring from the blowpipe to a rod called a punty. And the punty has a little bit of glass on the end. And so to access the mouth of the piece, which is attached to the pipe, I have to transfer it to the punty. Get that, please. I have to transfer it to the punty and break it off of the pipe, and then be able to heat up the lip of the piece and shape that. So
that's really already starting to look amazing. Look at that, man! Wow.
Yeah. So this is what we call a primo vase, is what it is. And so I'll tap it with a little water, and it comes right off and is attached to the punty now. And I'll be able to access the top of the piece and heat that up.
Oh wow! So, you have to transfer it midway through. My goodness, as if it wasn't dangerous enough.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing for people to learn, I think, is a transfer. Actually, it took me a whole freaking semester to get a piece when I first started. It was a lot of trial and error, mostly error, and it's just timing and heat and figuring everything out. And some people it takes a while.
So that's the spot where you can really just ruin a piece and go, well, we're starting over again. Crumple it up. Let's start again.
It falls on the floor, it's just, or cracks when you go back and reheat it again, or that's the most dangerous spot for the piece.
Wow, what is that on the oven? Is that like stickers and bumper stickers and stuff? I'm just noticing.
Those are buttons. Threadheads do lanyap every year at Jazz Fest, and you give a lot of the Threadheads we make our own buttons, and you give a button to people, and as just a memory of Fest that year. I have Paul Sanchez button up there. It's in there. The "Come on, be a Threadhead" button, and so it's a lot of different memories for different years.
Oh, that's neat, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So now I'm just opening the top up and working on the lip of the piece, and then if the glass is hot enough, you could we have some special scissors or shears, and you could cut the glass. And I'm evening off the top of the piece with the shears.
Wow, man! And you're not even sweating. Amazing. I'd be sweating I'd be profusely.
I don't sweat a ton. I try to think my body's very efficient, and I drink a lot of fluids while I'm working, obviously, and but I've had other glass blowers come into the studio and we fool around a little bit, and they're like drenched, and it's like, damn, how do you work in it? You get used to it, It's like people say, how do you live in Louisiana? It's like, well, you get used to it, so you do.
My only similar experience is when I was 18, I worked at Cafe Roma, and there was no air conditioning in the place, and we had the oven. In summertime at Cafe Roma, it's probably the only thing I came close to. And I don't think the people who ate the pizzas there want to know how many sweat drops wound up on their damn pizzas. Cause,
oh, my God.
I'm sorry, but...
I don't know now.
It's just the way it was. I mean, what am I going to do? It's freaking hot in that place.
If somebody asked how the name Threadhead got started, and it's friends that like Jazz Fest that met on the Jazz Fest chat forum on a thread, hence the name Threadheads. And they became friends and became activist group after that, and have helped the city more than words can say.
Not just friends, we're family. It's our chosen family. And I heard Craig talking about it the other day, and he said friends, but it's it's you have family everywhere, and if I'm going out, if we're going somewhere, if we're we're taking a trip to LA to visit my son out there in a little bit, and we'll get together with our family, the Threadheads out there, and like when Max, my son, was looking to move to LA, he was able to crash at family, at friends and families' houses, and they're just like, what do you need? It's not just the Katrina hope. It's just like members of your family who want to help in any way.
Right. And I bet you that's the hardest thing of this pandemic is just not being able to host our friends here in New Orleans,
Exactly.
And everybody's ready to get back and see some music and just eat your broccoli so we can get back to work. My goodness gracious.
Exactly. So I'm viewing now. I think I'm putting the last finishing touches on it. It's a cone shape. So I'm using it's a V block. It's called. She just put a nice sharp line on it, and so it's a cone shaped primo vase is what it is.
Nice.
Good.
And look how big it is now. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 13, 14 inches tall. So, it's a fair sized piece.
Yeah. Now I've seen some of these. So you got that. Now, do you make stems and stuff after the fact, or is it part of when you take it?
You mean for
like for
stems?
with stand or something like it has the big part that's open, but then they're usually like a little part that's solid that and a lot of these are not necessarily.
Some of them, we could do two parts and glue them together. That's probably the most efficient way to do it. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking it off of the punty. So you put the punty on incorrectly, it will take a big hole out of the bottom. If you put it on correctly, it just comes off on one tap like that. And if you put it on too hot, it'll take a hole out of the bottom. So there are lots of other things to deal with. I'm just using a oxypropane torch to smooth out the bottom of the piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the piece in an oven called an annealing oven. And what annealing is slowly cooling the glass from, that glass right now is about 1,000 degrees, 1,100 degrees. So it's putting it in the oven. It'll hold at 920 degrees and then slowly cool down to room temperature overnight for about 16 hours so that we could handle it in the morning.
Wow.
And I guess
That's
it
amazing,
has
Mark.
to be a slow process in order to keep it from, doing damage to the
and
piece.
it depends on the thickness. It depends on the thickness of the piece. The thicker the piece, the more annealing time you have. So, it's every piece is different. So it's a great medium. I mean, it's instant gratification. I used to do ceramics, and I started in ceramics, and ceramics was, you'd throw the pot, you'd wait for it to dry, you fire the pot, you glaze it, and then it's not until weeks later that you see the actual piece. But this is like, you'll see this piece while you're working it, and the next morning it looks like that. So it's a great process.
Nice.
Very neat. And there you are hydrating again.
Thanks for, he's hydrating.
Always hydrating.
Thanks for being on thanks for being on the show to talk about it and to show a clip of how it actually happens. It was great.
Yeah, I think everybody
appreciate the
enjoyed it.
invitation.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. Definitely.
Y'all come and visit, Mike. I expect a visit out of you when you're more comfortable getting out of the house. And
Absolutely.
Paul. Yep. I don't know what just happened. So.
Did you go away? Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Come and visit and look us up online and follow us on every Tuesday and Thursday on Facebook Lives. So cool.
That's right. You have your Facebook Live thing that you do. Barbara Smith Davis just said when her husband died 4 years ago, she visited your studio, chose globes for his remains, and she gets to see and admire your work every day.
That's beautiful.
I do special projects for people.
That's Debbie Davis's mom, and she's a wonderful singer as well.
Oh yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today, man. And I guess we'll be back on. We'll go ahead and let you go real quick. We'll jump back out so you can go enjoy the rest of your day. I'm sure you have stuff to do. Unlike us, you probably have work to do. So you know.
I got a list. I got a list to do. All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
man. Yep,
Good
take
to
care.
Bye-bye.
In here.
All right, bye. All right there, boss.
Well, there you go, Mike. That was fun.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. So,
We got to see it come from nothing to a really beautiful vase at the end.
right, and just
It's quite something,
and the time it took to make an interview, right? I mean, it's crazy, right? It's just,
right? It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm glad several of the folks out there liked it too.
Yeah, same here. So Friday we got Lou, Chicago Lou.
We have Chicago Lou, but my wife's son Brian and his girlfriend Liz are going to a Comic-Con here in New Orleans. So I'm hoping that while we have Chicago Lou on, we can have them broadcast live from Comic-Con with a few of their friends in costume, and Chicago Lou can perhaps interview since he's the cosplay expert.
Nice, nice. So we'll have another four-way. I like the Brady Bunch when we do the Brady Bunch thing. That's kind of fun, right? You know, so we'll have another one of those.
Well, it worked really well today because the fourth person wasn't talking. Yeah. When you get four people talking, it can be a little hectic.
Yeah, maybe so. But,
if one of them's like me and talks a lot.
so, well, thank you guys for joining us again. I guess there's another one in the books. And
Yes, indeed.
and like we said, look, we're sticking to it, man. We're still doing it. We're coming into July. So, and who knows, sadly, if this pandemic winds up going on and on and on, we may be doing this for a long time.
I know. I thought we were coming to the end, and then now here there's another surge, so it might be something to keep me occupied.
Right, and keep our minds off of it as much as we can. Holy smoke. But excellent, guys. Thank you again, and I guess we'll see him on Friday, huh, Paul?
Yes, indeed.
Take care.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum. Well, we used to be like that, but now we're like this all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.